So obviously anything I provide is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So don't take anything that I'm saying as actual healthcare advice for you as an individual. You should go to your own individual health professional. Obviously, please bear in mind the fact that I am UK based, and the rules, the legislation across the whole world is very different between very different places. And that is one of the things that I found when it comes to sweeteners and the rules for the FDA over in the US, and obviously the European Union, and obviously the UK now that we've exited the European Union. We have our own rules, and they're all completely different all the way around the world. So please bear that in mind, that when I say anything in regards to rules, my default is the UK, unless I've specifically said otherwise. Let me get back on the comments. Ella, hopefully I'm back in StreamYard again. I'm still getting used to all the different functions. I'm going to try a few different functions while we're on today, see if I can get used to them, see if I can get some technical difficulties in training. Hello, Julie. Welcome again. I do enjoy being on live streams with you. Yes, Demi. So I think you were the person that put about aspartame in my actual thing. Yeah, there was a huge uproar, especially in the FDA, and looking on about what all the uproar was. And I don't think, from reading all the different articles and looking on it, I don't think any of the uproar of this all was actually to do with the scientific advice around aspartame and its actual medical, properties and such like. It seems to have looked like where the flow of money was. And obviously a lot of the food companies want to use it. It makes their food taste much better. It makes the drinks taste much better. And so a lot of funding was put into different trials. Obviously, the funding for the majority of the trials were heavily funded by the wrong people. And so there was a heavy bias in a lot of the studies done. And so when the FDA did say it was safe, and other agencies said it was safe, there was a lot of backhanders with money. And obviously then the media got hold of that, and other people got hold of that. And then obviously they realized, then they said that obviously it's not safe because of the backhanders and the money. And then anytime that anybody independent has tried to look at it since then, there's always been that doubt of, are they just trying to cover up a conspiracy? What is the real data? What is the real? And I think that is the problem. There's so much mistrust because of the previous badly done trials that nobody knows quite where to do it. Yeah, so as being a diabetic, then yes, sugar. Can I be cheeky and ask which one, type 1 or type 2? Because obviously you've got two different reasons there. Type 1, every calorie from sugar counts, because you need to then put in exactly the right amount of insulin into your body at exactly the right time to get the levels correctly. And then obviously with type 2, when it's insulin resistance to your body, you've also got to try and regulate it, but in a different way. And I think people try and lump both type 1 and type 2 together, and they are two totally different conditions. One is basically replacing the pancreas that's not functioning and replacing the insulin, whereas type 2 is more of a metabolic disorder, and you've got to regulate everything around the whole thing. So type 2, but you're on the type 2 to the point where your body either hasn't got any insulin left, or is that insulin resistance that you're actually needing to put some insulin on. And this was a common thing that we've had before, that people, once they've type 2 and they end up on insulin, people assume the back to being a type 1, and it's not. Still totally different. Just let me put the light on. Unfortunately, with it being evening in the UK, the sun is likely to disappear soon, and I forgot to put the light on. So yeah, so sweeteners, yes, they are an excellent substitute for sugar in people that do need to lower their sugar levels. And I don't think we should demonize any one particular strategy, because everybody needs to actually look at their own lifestyle and look at what is best for them within their own lifestyle. And if you are somebody that's maybe of a higher weight, and it would be in benefit for your health to lose some weight, then reducing calories and reducing sugars is one method of doing that. And then if you've got something like diabetes, where limiting the amount of sugar in your diet would help control your condition, then yeah, one of them ways can be to substitute some of the sugar in your diet with a sweetener. And obviously, when we talk about artificial sweeteners, they come in two different groups. You've got the sweeteners that you can get from natural sources, things like the stevia, the sorbitol, the erythritol, and such like, where they come from sort of natural sources, certain amount of processing of them. And then you've got some that are the actual artificial sweeteners that have been created by chemical reactions to make a new product that we then ingest. Oh, you're needing to gain weight. But I always think that is a problem. It's very hard for people to be in the middle weight. When you're of a low weight and you've got issues that have caused you to lose weight and you need to gain weight, then it's always an issue. And it's always an issue the other way around, trying to get to that perfect medium. So not all of, and even when we say about sort of the natural ingredients, just because it's natural doesn't necessarily mean it's safe. And we can prove that with many different substances that we can eat that are poisonous. The majority of poisons are actually natural, because quite often that is what the plants have done as their natural defense mechanisms to stop animals eating them. And again, some animals have got natural defense mechanisms to get away from predators, so venoms and such like. So some of the most potent poisons have been created by nature. So just because something's natural doesn't mean it's safe. And actually, some of the natural sweeteners, things like sorbitol, and sorbitol is found in quite a few fruits, as well as it being a sweetener that doesn't get absorbed into your system. It is a sweetener that absorbs a lot of water to it, and it can actually have a laxative effect. So sorbitol, erythritol, and xylitol, you will always find that if they're used as a sweetener on certain sweets and such like, you'll also see the warning that says may cause a laxative effect. And that's because they act like an osmotic laxative in the intestines, pull water to them, pull water into your intestines to make your stools a lot softer, a lot more watery, and have a laxative effect. So just because something is a natural sweetener doesn't necessarily mean it's a better sweetener. So your choice of sweeteners, don't just assume I want to go natural, because I did go on a diet once that was promoted, and they promoted all these alternative cakes, and they used massive amounts of erythritol in these cakes, saying that it was natural alternative to sugar, when technically it's not. It's just as processed as sugarcane is. The erythritol, they're both processed in the same sort of way. So they're both processed from nature, and the cakes have a massive laxative effect, which I also think was probably the point of this diet that was on anyway, was to help you just lose calories and lose water. It was an MLM. But we move on from the MLM subject. But then back to the aspartame. Aspartame was made, and it's made by two different amino acids, L-aspartic acid and L-phenylalanine. So it's two amino acids. They join them together chemically, and it's 200 times sweeter than sugar. So if you want the equivalent to 1 gram of sugar, you only need about 50 milligrams of the aspartame to be the same amount of sweetness in something. So it's two amino acids, and then it is Demi, it is very much a thing. So many of these diets, they give you supplements which are just laxatives that help you just feel that you suddenly lose 4 or 5 pounds because you've just lost 4 or 5 pounds of stools and water. And yeah, it's not a healthy way. You haven't actually lost any fat weight. So yeah. The main issue with aspartame, so it's made of two I'm getting used to using StreamYard. It's made of 2 amino acids, and then when it gets into your system, so you've eaten it, you've tasted it as being 200 times sweeter than sugar, so you only need a small amount in whatever you're eating, and it's made it taste really nice. And then your body will break it back down into those 2 amino acids and a very, very small amount of methanol. So it says about 40% of it will be as the L-aspartic acid amino acid, 40% as the L-phenylalanine amino acid, and 20% as methanol. Methanol, although it sounds scary to start with because you think, oh, you know, you're meth addicts, it's an alcohol. Methanol is naturally available in fruits and vegetables. So we naturally have methanol in our bodies. Our bodies naturally can metabolize it and metabolize it out. And again, how it metabolizes it, it always scares people because it gets metabolized into formaldehyde on the way to formic acid to the way to being excreted. But that happens with the majority of fruit we eat. So we don't actually need to panic about these chemical names, because those chemical names are already present in all the foods that we eat and in our body's natural processes. So the only main problem, and you'll find that when you actually look on the back of drinks and such like that contain aspartame, is that they also have to have the warning contains a source of phenylalanine, because obviously that is one of the amino acids in it that it breaks down to once it's in the body. And just to prove that I don't actually think it's that bad, and I'm not promoting them, so I won't take the name, but I drink them. But on the back it says source of phenylalanine, and you may have wondered why you see that warning on different foods, and that's because there is a very rare, well, I don't think it's that rare because there's enough people of it to be made an issue of having a metabolic disorder called PKU, where they can't actually metabolize the phenylalanine properly within their body, and it can cause major issues for them. And so for those people, anything that has aspartame in, they do have to avoid, like they have to avoid any other foods that are high sources of phenylalanine. But for the majority of people, you eat it, those 2 amino acids go around your body and then just processed as all amino acids are within your body. You'll either use them in the correct places, or if you don't need it, your body will excrete it. And the same with the methanol, your body will metabolize it and it'll leave your system. So for the majority of people that are using aspartames within the recommended limits, and the recommended limits is equivalent to 36 cans of a pop a day, then you are actually able to metabolize it quite easily and with no problem. You'll metabolize it into the components and then out to your system. Just trying to think. If you want to know a bit more, I have put in the description box below. Hi, Tom. Hope all's well in Canada. So nice to see you online here. Yeah, so I have shared some links below. The Food Science Babe, she has a great YouTube channel, and she's done a couple of YouTube shorts recently when the IARC came out with its classification saying that aspartame is potentially carcinogenic, and she explains it really well and much better than I'm probably going to now. But they actually just rate things and their potential hazard, not taking account of anything to do with dose or anything to do with the levels that we are ingesting on a daily basis. They just look at the potential hazard, as in somebody got a big bag full of aspartame and started to eat it. And potentially, yes, in massive doses, there is the potential that it can cause changes in cells and in cancer, but not in the, but that's just the hazard. And that the hazard is something that you've got to take into account when you're doing a hazard of any substance for use when you're using it in industry and you're having exposures that are not necessarily normal for normal day-to-day life. So when you take into account risk, which is what things like the FDA and other agencies take into account, and you take into the risk in what is a normal daily dose, well, they take into account things like, that 35 cans worth of is a daily acceptable limit. And when they run all their data and look at hundreds and thousands of people on observational studies, they also look at smaller studies where they've actually exposed people to it, and we'll look at the higher doses of exposure. When you look at all of that, the actual long-term cancer risks from aspartame and from many of the other sweeteners, it's not there. And it's not there for them. Now, that doesn't mean that there might be confounding factors. And the confounding factors that they always have to take into account with observational studies is the diet and lifestyle of people that take artificial sweeteners. And as you would probably guess, people who have higher levels of artificial sweeteners in their diet are probably people that have higher levels of ultra-processed food in their diets. Therefore, their diets have more contributing factors that might be contributing to higher cancer risk than people who don't have artificial sweeteners and possibly have more of a high fruit and vegetable diet with less ultra processed food, and therefore have different lower risk factors for cancer. So in general, taken just as an agent, there doesn't seem to be a link. And there have been many different studies. The Cancer Research UK have good information on this. And also I've linked a good resource. I'm just going to click on the other screen so I can say who it is. So I've also linked an article from the National Library of Medicine, the PubMed, about that in the description box below, that provides the good evidence that they've gone into. So you can be reassured that it is safe in terms of cancer risk things. Oh, just So in other than water, if you're having to avoid sugar, being diabetic, somebody else has already said that they're diabetic as well, Tom. So you're not alone in the comments section. It is a good source of being able to have something sweet, because sometimes it is hard to stay hydrated with just water if you don't like water. Yes, in theory, water may be the preferred best option, but we're not all perfect and we can't always be perfect. So Marie, absolutely. PKU is a condition that is now routinely tested at birth. There's a whole load of genetic conditions that they now test at birth with literally just a, well, I would say it's a pinprick, but it's not. It's a pinprick test, but they usually do it on the foot of a newborn, do it before they've even realised what's happening, and they're able to test for a multitude of different metabolic disorders straight away so that there isn't any damage, because that's the problem with PKU, is if it's not caught early and they end up having seizures and such like from it, then it can cause damage. But if you can prevent that in the first place, then they can actually go on to having pretty much a normal life, which is excellent. It's excellent, the different things that are coming out, that we're preventing conditions and preventing the damage of them conditions. Now, that was in right back at the beginning, and it was question was, can aspartame be a cause of migraines? And the answer is potentially yes, and potentially there is problems that it can trigger different different problems for certain people. People with migraines can have triggers from a whole range of different things. One of my triggers is not having caffeine, which I think is more the caffeine withdrawal. If I don't have it, if I've been upping my caffeine and then suddenly I try and detox from my caffeine, I have a major migraine because my body's got used to having caffeine. And caffeine is a natural drug, a natural ingredient found in many different plants and sources. Tea, your tea, your coffee bean and such like. But yeah, the phenylalanine, and they seem to think that that's because normally if you eat a meat source or a other protein source with phenylalanine in it, your body will process it from absorbing it in the gut and then process it to where it needs to be. But whereas in aspartame, it'll go into your bloodstream as aspartame, and then the actual metabolizing and breaking down into the 2 amino acids, a higher level of the L-aspartic acid and the L-phenylalanine can actually pass the blood-brain barrier to what you would normally have from just eating it in a normal protein source. And the phenylalanine and both the phenylalanine and the L-aspartic acid are building blocks for certain different neurotransmitters in the brain and the way the brain works. So there is the potential that, yes, for some people, it can be a trigger in either making them have better mental function or worse mental function or triggering migraines. So there is some validity in the fact that, yes, certain people may be sensitive to having migraines and other effects from drinking too much aspartame. So as with everything, in moderation as part of a healthy lifestyle. And so I always think of it a bit like with the sort of smoking and vaping. If you're somebody that has come from the starting point of you've got far too much sugar in your diet and you know that you need to reduce that amount of sugar to improve your health, then dropping down from sugar to aspartame can really help and will probably have a lot less potential problems than the amount of sugar. However, if you really enjoy water and you're quite happy, you've got a really, really healthy lifestyle, it probably would be a backward step to just increase and add in artificial sweeteners for the sake of it. So it's all a balance of how you look at it. So with smoking and vaping, such like, I'm going to talk about my family here, but like my mum and dad who smoked massive amounts of cigarettes for decades because that was the thing that they did. My mum was able to quit cigarettes without anything to substitute it, and she's done brilliantly. But my dad, he likes he needs something in his hands. He needs that routine. He needs that, and he swapped onto electronic cigarettes and the vaping. And it's improved his health no end because, he's not getting all the side effects that he was having with cigarettes. And so the vaping is a million times better and safer for him than what he was doing. However, go to the other end. I have a 16-year-old daughter. The thought of her starting vapes when she's already got a healthy lifestyle, and the fact that she's got decades of the future if she was to start, is a no. I don't want you to go down that road, because we don't know what the risk factors are for 50 years worth of you vaping when you've actually got healthy lungs at the start. So it's all a matter of for risk reduction, risk amounts. So, my dad's vaping for the next 20, 30 years of his life. That's fine, because it's actually much better. So I think always you need to look at the risk benefits of things, and that, yes, something may have a risk, but where are you coming to with that risk? Are you coming down a step with that risk? And are the benefits going to be more than the risks that you're getting? So I hope that made sense. The other thing that I want to say, so I have also included Zoe, a Zoe podcast. Now, Zoe comes from King's College London, and they are the experts in research into the microbiome. And they've done a podcast about aspartame and the microbiome. So I have left a link to that below if you're interested about artificial sweeteners and the microbiome. There does seem to be a link, and Zoe is the place to go when you want to know about anything to do with the microbiome. They have done many different podcasts on many different types of diets, types of foods that influence the microbiome. And so I've left their link below. But yes, there is the potential that artificial sweeteners do affect the microbiome. Obviously, you're ingesting artificial sweeteners, you think it's sugar, your body thinks it's sugar because you're sending the signals that it's sweet. And the same with the microbiome. And there is does alter your microbiome by having artificial sweeteners, and it does seem to reduce the amount of diversity in your microbiome. And what we need in our microbiome is diversity. We need a whole host of different bacteria there to help with many different things. And there does seem to be effect there. And this may be where the effect of artificial sweeteners on weight gain in certain people can happen. And again, this doesn't happen in everybody, but there is some studies that for the majority of people, artificial sweeteners lower your sugar into your diet, lower your calories into your diet, and do therefore cause a calorie deficit and help with the weight loss. But in a subset of people, there does seem to be the fact that artificial sweeteners seem to actually cause weight gain. And they don't know why. And they think it may be linked to the microbiome. And they've done all these studies with linked to the microbiome and gaining weight and losing weight. The studies of, they've even got the microbiome, and they've extracted the microbiome out of individuals that are overweight and individuals that are underweight, and then transported that into the intestines of mice, and then seen that those mice either gain weight or lose weight depending on what microbiome they've been given. It's all very, very interesting. And I think there's something that a lot more research needs to be put into. And there is even sort of the treatments of replacing the microbiome. And obviously that you'll see there's millions of probiotics out there saying that they can help. And although they may a little bit help add in some diversity to your microbiome, they won't really solve everything, because we need actually hundreds and thousands of different types of bacteria. And when you take a supplement, you'll be lucky if it's got 5 or 6 different microbiome, 5 or 6 different microbes in it that they're trying to give you. So they're not going to. But there is some good evidence for people that have had things like Clostridium difficile, which is a major infection that just wipes out your own microbiome. It takes over. It basically everything just falls out your intestines. And the best way to treat that is to replace the microbiome with a family member's microbiome. And they have actually done this, where they'll actually take a stool sample from a family member, find the microbiome in it, purify it, and place it into an enteric coated capsule, which they've now termed crapsules, it's a pun on words, that the patient can take, and then it's enteric coated so that it doesn't release until it gets into the large intestines. It then opens up and provides the good, healthy bacteria that was living in their family member back into their intestines and helps them along. And it is amazing, the studies on microbiomes. The microbiomes of family members can be very similar. The microbiome of the baby does come from their mother. If they have a vaginal birth, they're more likely to have a more healthy microbiome that's similar to their mother's than if they had a C-section. Again, with the breastfeeding, if they more breastfeeding seems to help with the microbiome and the passing over of the healthy gut bacteria to the baby. It's all very interesting. Even sort of, you probably find they found that even married couples will share more of a microbiome than they do after living together for a while than they do with the original families that they came from. It's all extremely interesting. I think the last thing I got on my list about artificial sweeteners is the one thing that everybody always forgets, but they can be an excellent replacement for people who have got tooth decay, or preventing tooth decay by preventing the amount of sugar that you actually consume and have on your teeth. Although there's a few things that people always forget with that, and that is that even with diet drinks, some drinks that have got sort of your phosphoric acid in it or are carbonated and acidic, that actually can cause its tooth decay in its own right, being acid. Also, the fact that fruit juices, pure fruit juices, can be just as bad as tooth decay as alternatives because they have the acidic content and the high sugar content. So if you do have a young child, you are best actually, if they are to have fruit juice, that they should have it before, they should have it at a time where they're also going to eat something else and then also brush their teeth afterwards. So if they've already brushed their teeth for an evening, do not be giving them fruit juice before they go to bed. So yeah, hello, Kate. So yeah, so they do, and they did find that people that moved on to things with high artificial sweeteners, they end up actually craving more sugar later on in the day. It's as though they've had the signal to the brain that they should have had sugar, then the body realizes that they haven't had the sugar that they thought they were going to have, and so they crave it again, going, well, where was it? Can I have it again? So yeah, that's not in your mind. You do, they have found that in the larger studies that people that drink the diet drinks, have the artificial sweeteners, they do end up having more caloric intake than people that had sort of plain water or other things without artificial sweeteners. Yeah, so I have to say, I can tell the difference between the different artificial sweeteners, whereas other people, it is very independent. And an interesting thing to note, because of all the issues with the FDA and aspartame that happened, the content of artificial sweeteners in Pepsi and in Coca-Cola in the US and in the UK is totally different. So people will say when they go to the other country, it doesn't taste right. And they're right, because they've got different amounts. It's also been proven that the majority on blind taste tests, most people who have got a sweet tooth prefer Pepsi, because Pepsi is actually got more sweeteners in it and they've got a higher sweetness taste. So you find people who have a more of a sweet tooth prefer Pepsi, Pepsi Max, to those people who don't have a sweet tooth usually prefer the Coca-Cola. So which is quite interesting, and whether which camp you're in. And as for drinking store-bought brands, I don't like any of them. I've gone through phases of cutting totally out Pepsi Max, moving it back in, and I try and now just find a balance. My main reason why I try and find a balance is because if I drink too much of it keeps me awake at night, because caffeine does lead into insomnia. And as I also said in my melatonin video previously, it's pointless taking a melatonin supplement if you're also then drinking too much caffeine, because one's basically interacting with the other and counteracting it. Excellent point, Marie, that, yeah, drinking juice with straws can really help, especially with kids. Yeah. Yep. You're not being weird. Well, you're not being weird with that, but I usually approve of weirdness anyway. We're all unique, and it would be boring if we were all normal. Hopefully that's probably covered everything about aspartame. What I did find interesting, because obviously I've been asking for different ideas for different subjects. Somebody did ask for melatonin, and I have already covered melatonin on a previous live stream and done an actual video on melatonin. But if you've got any extra questions on melatonin, feel free to ask them. But one thing interesting that I did do was, while I was on a Clown Towns live the other day, and if any of you are interested in anti-MLM content, then I do promote Clown Town. They are just so funny with their reactions to videos that they make. Watching even the worst videos very tolerable, especially when, and they're great at debunking the medical misinformation, which is great, and I love the support from them. But while they were on there, they were talking about using AI and ChatGPT, so I thought I would put into ChatGPT what ideas for different videos I could do, and it was very interesting with what it came up with. The first one, which it came up with, was actually vitamin C and kidney stones. So it's obviously, when you use things like ChatGPT, it really is looking at what is current, what is going on around there. And it obviously picked up the article from the Huff Post about the influencer taking far too much vitamin C and it causing kidney stones. So I went back and actually had a look at that. And yes, there is a definite link between vitamin C in ridiculous amounts, like it was saying. And I like the way that it termed it. I might see if I can share this. Let me see if I can get the... So you'll have to let me know whether this actually presents. So I'm going to present. I share the screen. Oh, wrong page. I'm showing myself. So hopefully, so the Huff Post shared the article why you should never ever take more of the recommended amount of vitamin C. And obviously the person that wrote this article had come across that developed the kidney stones, and that she'd been ingesting 50 grams of vitamin C every day. And I love the way that they put that into context of that is actually 50,000 milligrams, where the recommended dose is only 75 milligrams. So as you can see, you're getting on to, you're getting on to far too much, 100 times the amount. And they now actually check to an urologist. Obviously, urologists are the experts in treating kidney stones, and said about the fact that kidney stones become vitamin C if you've got excess, which I said this on my last live stream. If you've got excess of any water-soluble vitamin, your kidney will excrete it. However, if you're going to overload it with thousands of the usual dose of that, it's going to struggle. And as vitamin C is excreted, it becomes oxalate. And obviously oxalate, if there's a high concentration in a liquid of this, which there will be as your kidneys are trying to excrete that out, it will then actually form into a stone. It will sort of precipitate out of solution into an actual salt, cause kidney stones. And yeah, as I said, you're literally following a kidney stone recipe. And so obviously they put the screenshots of that. So hopefully, did StreamYard work on that? And hopefully that wasn't too many technical difficulties. I will look back at that and then see how well that usually works. Hi, Sam. Great to see you. So yeah, definitely. And the oxalate kidney stones, it can come from quite a few things. Oxalate kidney stones are actually very common in rabbits if they consume too higher amounts of certain veg and high vitamin C and green leafy vegetables. So that's one thing that I always have to watch with my rabbits. They've got to have a balanced diet with an extreme amount of hay and grass, because too much of a good thing, even, too much of a good thing of your vitamins is a bad thing. As we always say, the dose makes the poison. And as we were talking about with aspartame, in low concentrations, it can be a great benefit to help lower your sugar levels. In a high amounts, there's going to be potentially problems. But that's the same with any natural ingredient. The dose can make the poison. Even water we can overdose on. So that's always an interesting thing. Oh, excellent. Thank you, Marie. So it was quite interesting the way that ChatGPT also shared different ideas. So I copied and pasted it into a Word document. So, but it even gave a really good summary. And I also tried on ChatGPT. I tried to ask it about how shall I do coffee enemas for colon cancer, and where's the information to on how to do a coffee enema. And it was brilliant. It just kept telling me, you really need to go and talk to your oncologist. You really need to go and talk through all the options of surgery, chemotherapy, radiotherapy. But if you are still interested, there is dangers associated with coffee enemas. And I thought, even from a computer generated program, it was still really good with its advice that it came out. Obviously, it then had the disclaimers going, I am just an AI program. I am not a healthcare professional. Please go see an oncologist, which was great. Yes, it is, Sam. It's the same with guinea pigs too. Although guinea pigs do actually need a slightly higher amount of vitamin C than rabbits. So it's not always sensible to keep guinea pigs and rabbits together with the same diet, because they do actually need slightly different diets. Yeah. So yeah, we absolutely need vitamin C, but anything in too larger amounts isn't. Demi, people do ask AI for medical advice, and I have actually seen a couple of really decent doctors. Mama Dr. Jones, who's great for an OBGYN for anything, health related. If you have a uterus, she is great. And that is how she terms it. She's very, very open about sort of advice for anybody that's got a uterus or has to deal with somebody with a uterus. She's brilliant. And she ran some things through ChatGPT, and that was quite amusing on how accurate it was, especially when she was asking it who's the best who's the best doctors on YouTube. And Dr. Mike as well, he's already done it as well. But yeah, no, I asked it to give me the top 10 things that I should be, top 10 supplements and misinformation that I should debunk. So vitamin C, as I've just said, was first. It also said melatonin, and as I said, I've already done a video on that. But I'm just going to present again, and hopefully I'm going to share the screen. So it said about vitamin C. It was great because it said it's great that I'm a pharmacist with a YouTube channel wanting to debunk medical misinformation. So it would very good. If you ever feel like you need a pat on the back, go and have a chat to ChatGPT. It's it'll really help you out. So obviously, omega-3 fatty acids. Now that is actually one of the top supplements in the US. I think it was the top supplement for kids in the US, and I think it was fourth overall for adults. It is also one of the top ones in the UK as well. Varying different things for heart health, brain function, and mood. And there is some evidence, but I think the majority of the evidence is it's not just the omega fatty acids that's the benefit. It's actually the foods that they're in. It's the Mediterranean diet and the fish oils that they're in. So the fish, nuts and seeds and a Mediterranean diet. That is the majority of the benefit from omega-3 fatty acids. And if you just take those good bits out and just stick them in a capsule, you're not getting the overall as much benefit. So yes, there is some benefit, but actually it's getting it direct from the food is better. Again, with probiotics, I've covered that quite a few times, but I think I may do a separate video on that, although I have covered it in a few live streams. Multivitamins, I've already covered vitamin A previously, vitamin B6 in a thing. And for the majority, again, we need them. There is evidence, but overdosing on vitamins is not sensible. So calcium, antioxidants, glucosamine, ginkgo biloba, green tea extract, which I pretty much say in pretty much every MLM product out there, they always have green tea, and they always try and say that it's a natural source of caffeine and it's a natural source. But yeah, so that was very interesting. And it even gave a good sort of amount of information. So I've put that on my community channel. So if any of you want to go to the community tab on my channel and vote for what you'd like me to do future videos on, and I can do that. So Marie, you can trick AI. I'm sure you can trick AI. Yeah. No, the way that I asked it, I went, I've got colon cancer and I've heard that I should take coffee enema. And it started by going, I'm really sorry that you've got colon cancer, and went along those, and you should really talk to an endocrinologist. But yes, I suppose I could have asked it in a different way of how should I give my coffee enema and what are the claims? And then obviously it would do. So yeah, caffeine is natural. It's found in so many different plants. So it isn't just in green tea leaves. It isn't just in the coffee bean. And it probably in humans, it's sort of a receptor and a chemical that's not really sort of much benefit sort of in our day-to-day lives. But historically in evolution, in some animals and some plants, the plants probably used it as a defense mechanism, and then some animals will have adapted to use it and have a benefit from it. And that's with a lot of these chemicals. A plant will produce a chemical in a way of a defense or to improve something, and then other animals that consume it will then use it because ones that have used it and adapted to it and found a function for it will then preferentially survival of the fittest. They will then propagate. So it's all very interesting, the amount of these different receptors that we've got in our body. Obviously, we've got opioid receptors all over the body, and opium is natural. Obviously, so all the morphines and things, they're all naturally present. And so that's quite often why the majority of things that either act as a poison but can also act as a medicine on us are from nature because we've adapted. Have you read Bad Pharma by? No, I haven't. I will add that onto my list to have a look at. So, oh, that's a good point. Say things like, what site should I avoid to get onto the dodgy sites? Yeah. Yes, it can be very interesting, turning you poop different colours. There's also different things that you can do to turn your urine funny colours. So obviously having beetroot and turning your urine red can be quite freaky. There is also quite a few different medications that can suddenly turn your urine varying different colours, and so quite often there will be warnings on medication saying that it can turn your thing, which actually reminds me that that could actually be a really good shorts to do. Turn your urine this colour with these medications. And also the other thing, if anybody owns rabbits, yeah, different types of fruit and vegetables and things that they eat can change their urine massively different. I got freaked out once when they had bright red urine, and it was just actually the veg that they'd been eating. Pseudoscience. Well, I wouldn't actually. It might be getting a bit old, but the pseudoscience comes round again. The amount of things, as was being discussed on DC's live, things that were happening, crazy medical misinformation that was happening back on Housewives back over 10 years ago has resurfaced again. So yeah, medical misinformation is always resurfacing. And if something gets debunked and then goes out of fashion, and then somebody will go back and go, but we used to do that, so why don't we go back to what we used to do? So, and whereas there may be some benefit for going back to things that we used to do for some things are also left best in history. So I'm going to keep today's live stream to an hour because it is a Monday evening. Has anybody got any last questions before we finish? I hope you've all enjoyed being online. Does seem to have been rather a ramble today, just on Aspartame and randomly all over the place, but hopefully you've got something out of it. And yeah, if you go on my community tab, leave me all the comments and feedback on things that you'd like me to do. Things have been rather hectic the last month, so I haven't actually uploaded any standalone videos, but I do have 2 in progress. One is on the mud drinks, the drinks where they are using basically fulvic acid, which comes from peat bogs, and the whole sort of content of the micronutrients that's in peat bogs, and they're using that as a supplement. There's a slight theory, but I don't think you should really be taking mud drinks. But I've got a video coming up on that, and then there's going to be another video about colloidal silver. And really, so colloidal silver does have some benefits as juice on the skin. And so there is quite a lot of products out there, colloidal silver, for use on the skin. And silver's been used by medical professionals for years, silver impregnated in dressings for as its antimicrobial action in dressings. And there is good evidence for that. But people have been taking this colloidal silver that should be used on the skin for its antimicrobial actions and trying to ingest it for antimicrobial action. And it doesn't work there, because any bad effects that it has on microbial cells in the body, it also does have on your actual cells. Also, your body cannot actually excrete silver, so it does build up under the skin and it can turn you to a grey blue. So it's good if you want to turn yourself into a smurf. So I've got a video coming up on colloidal silver. I even had the problem yesterday, because I've been searching up colloidal silver quite a lot. I wanted to, I've got a photo frame on the sort of front of a photo album that I'd got from my granny's house. And I wanted to actually get some silver plating product to actually sort of improve the silver plating on it. Well, I tried searching for that, and all I got was colloidal silver adverts. Is a monk fruit bad for you? Patricia, I have no idea, but I can add it to my list of things to do. I wouldn't want to say that it is good or bad. I have no idea even what it is. I'm assuming it may be a fruit. But there again, I don't always make that sort of assumptions either, because things, just because it's got a name of something doesn't necessarily mean it is. Things like, even you think that peanuts are nut, but it actually isn't a nut. It's a legume. So can't always assume. I think a coconut as well isn't actually a nut. But yes, so I'll have a look on monk fruit, and I will let you know if I find anything interesting. I may even link it in the comment section of this once this actually saves and things. So yeah. Oh, Helen, I am just about to finish, but if you wanted to go back and watch it 2x speed, I would appreciate the watch hours. And we have had a good discussion on aspartame and a few other things. And another Marie, so Kay Marie again. Yeah, it's been great to have you all on this live. I love doing these lives. So I'm hoping to try and keep them fairly regular on a sort of on about a 3 weekly basis. Seems to be a good spacing. And let me know whether you prefer the usual Sunday night, or whether you prefer the fact that I've moved on to a Monday, and which is best for you all. So thank you all very much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you again.